today's video is a story about how we made our short film Epiphany for a little over $1,200 using virtual production technology and Unreal Engine 5. I want to walk you through how we made it, and I will be specifically focusing on the directing aspects of it because that's who I am. I am a director. And if you're new to this channel, my name is Nur Niaz, and here I share my own filmmaking journey with you guys to help you pave your own road. So please subscribe, I will appreciate that a lot. And just before we dive in, if you haven't watched the film yet, I would suggest you go and watch that short film first and come back here for the rest of the story. So it all began with me meeting my DP Vlad for just a random coffee meet to see what he's like as a person. And honestly, I didn't know much about him back then, but I knew he had a YouTube channel, his own filmmaking related YouTube channel with over 500,000 subscribers. And so to me, that was a really great opportunity to learn about YouTube because back then I really wanted to have this channel, a channel like this one. And yeah, we started talking about our backgrounds and what we want to be making as filmmakers and what resources we had access to and what we could do with what we have at the moment. And he told me that he owns a camera package, a red Komodo with a set of anamorphic lenses, which it's proven itself very useful later down the road. But most of all, we were both hungry for a passion project because me personally, I haven't taken a single passion project in 3 years. And I was always bragging about how I'm so fed up with commercials and only working in commercials. And I really wanted to focus on my own scripts and on my own short films this year. And that's how we came up with the idea that we want to make something together and something that is not a commercial. And we also both agreed on the amount of money that we are both willing to spend because we were splitting the costs. Then I went back home and I started fleshing out ideas, and I started going through my old notes and my saved references. And I noticed how all of them had a certain theme in common, and they reflected my feelings about the political situation in my region and how the war in Ukraine has influenced the traditional media, because I constantly witness people mindlessly consuming information without double checking the facts or sources. And to be clear with you, I'm right now mostly talking about the news in Russian language because that's what people in Kazakhstan tend to consume more of typically. And I'm not saying always, they are filled with propaganda and they are not considered examples of good journalism.
If you like a Russian grandma and like you cooking dinner and oh, there's TV on the background, this is just like their only source of news, like television, and it's terrible.
Propaganda became much more prominent on TV. It was basically the only narrative you could find.
There is no TV channels in Russia that not under the state, that not under the Kremlin.
Nowadays, Russian TV is just one big, endless storm of different kinds of propaganda.
Так, Владимир Путин назвал российских военных, которые участвуют в специальной операции на Украине, и привел конкретные примеры подвигов.
Стрелы со стороны украинских националистов. В Донецке вновь обесточена шахта, под землей находится более 100 человек.
I am firm in my belief that the war must stop. So for the mental health of this community, I would still prefer to keep the core of this channel at filmmaking and not politics. So let's go back to how we made the film. So I thought to myself, what would a highly biased person would look like if he had to face and try and understand the opposing worldview? And what if that person became a bit more open-minded to the objective facts rather than staying so married to their convenient narrative and understanding of the world? And that's when I came up with the name Epiphany. Just made sense. So as Vlad was new to our town, it was mostly on me to put the whole crew together. So to make the project management a bit easier for ourselves, I first hit up my friends Mira and Askar, who just so happened to be an awesome freelance producer duo. And they kindly agreed to put the whole thing together for us and even helped us out a little bit with their own money. However, the budget was still super tight, and as we started making our estimates, we realized that we need to cut a few things and we couldn't shoot on a location. I started looking at my shot list, and just out of curiosity, I decided to make a previous animation in the app called CineTracer. Someone's asked me this in the comments, what would I recommend for somebody who is just starting out in Unreal Engine 5, and that's exactly my recommendation. Go with CineTracer as it's basically a video game built on the Unreal Engine. The controls, the graphics, and physics are exactly the same, but everything is optimized and easier to use. It's got cameras, lenses, lighting, and all sorts of props and locations, and you can even import your own 3D asset to make it a bit closer to what you're looking for. Then I pulled a lot of reference images from movies like The Dune, Blade Runner, Macbeth. And to find them, I used Frameset, which back then was my first encounter of Frameset. And I was really shocked by how helpful it was in visualizing the film. If you don't know anything about Frameset, it's a searchable collection of reference frames curated for directors. It's very well optimized and easy to search based on what you are looking for. And you can specify your color palette, number of actors, and like a shot type. And it consists of an ever-growing collection of frames, not only from movies, but also from commercials and music videos, which, as you all know, have all their own distinct looks. This video is not sponsored by Frameset, but I do get a small commission if you want to upgrade with my discount code, which will give you 10% off your first purchase. See the description of this video for more details. Then I made an animated previs, and I really liked the way it looked, so much so that I was like, this is it, I made a film. No need to go out and shoot it anymore. As I was showing this animatic to Vlad, it hit us. We were both like, let's make it in Unreal Engine. If you don't know what Unreal Engine is, it is a 3D computer graphics game engine developed by Epic Games. It has become somewhat hyped up in the recent years as filmmakers realized it's a tool they can use to create photorealistic sets and environments. And one of the most popular projects that has successfully implemented this was Mandalorian, which I'm sure many of you already know. So we wanted to make something similar, but without spending nearly as much. We started researching the technology and quickly realized that in my city, there was only one studio that specializes in that. And even still, they don't have any screens built up and ready to use because they build screens custom for each project and it costs a ton. So there really was no out-of-the-box solution available to us. After many days of searching, we found a tiny TikTok studio that had the LED walls freshly installed and had the tracking systems in place. They needed some promo material to attract new clients, and so we discussed the potential collaboration, and they were happy to provide the place for free, which I'm very thankful they did because it honestly made the whole thing possible. But there was only one problem with it. It was tiny. On the flip side, unlike most of what I saw people use on YouTube, the studio had an LED floor as well, which is just so extra. I made my treatment and sent it to the producers, and they were able to put together a great crew, and I want to believe that my treatment was of great help in doing so. If you want to learn more about treatments, you can check out my online store that has many directing related products like treatment templates and a 50-page guidebook on writing winning treatments. We spent really long hours trying to build a world that looked like the one we had in our animatic. Then we just decided to purchase a pre-built 3D environment that looked like some canyons in my country. This was the easy part. As the LED walls were freshly installed and never put into real use, it took us quite some time to tune and test the screens. They weren't of the highest quality, and the dynamic range of the screens was very limited. Even though the camera had 13 stops of dynamic range, we were still very limited by 6 or 7 stops of dynamic range of the screens. True guerrilla filmmaking in its essence. The biggest challenge was making sure the lighting on the actors matched the lighting of the 3D environment, and especially considering how little space we had, so many of the lights had to be really close to the actors' faces. And we used HTC Vive motion trackers because that's what they had available in the studio, and it worked all right, I think, although it was a bit laggy sometimes. Yeah, at times it would just not track the motion of the camera at all. We still don't know why, but I assume it's due to the space being so cramped and so much stuff being put between the transmitters and receivers, like C-stands, the lights, and yeah, just like regular on-set stuff. After everything was said and done, I sent my casting preferences to my casting director Naz, who we worked with in the past a lot. We then began to distill the options and until we finalized and booked our actors. The whole process took us about 3 days. And I was one of the actors. It was my acting debut, so please don't be too harsh on my acting skills. Regarding the costumes, I had this image in my head that All these characters were just regular citizens who had been stranded in the desert without any food or water for weeks. They had to look a certain way. However, this also meant that the clothes on the 3D models had to look the same exact way as the real actors' clothes. Therefore, it was easier to first find the digital clothing and then make the real costumes match that. So there was really no going back after this because some of the money was already spent on costumes, etc. The team and I decided on the date and we booked all the talent, location, craft services, and equipment. In terms of the equipment, it really wasn't all that much. Camera-wise, it was my DP's own camera kit, a red Komodo, and a set of no-name DIY vintage anamorphic lenses that he made himself. The only thing I know and remember about them that they were 2x squeeze factor. I think they are based off like Soviet vintage lenses. Lighting-wise, we also kept it super minimal. And I think that's the cool thing about virtual production is the fact that you don't have to light the whole environment. You just have to match the foreground elements with the 3D background. The shoot went perfectly smooth and well, thanks to the immense amount of time spent in pre-production. We knew exactly the type of shots we needed to get, and we basically just needed to keep it as close to the animatic as possible. We only really needed to shoot the mid shots and close-up shots, as we knew that all of the master shots were going to be full CG renders. I think my actors did a fantastic job bringing their emotions out on screen. It was actually quite surreal being in front of the monitor, seeing their performances unfold in real life. I think this is one of the most important lessons I learned through the years of directing experience. If you get your casting right, you can basically relax and take it easy. I would say the key difference between shooting a regular project and something in virtual production is that you have to previs everything. Without it, it will take you forever to make adjustments on the go, on set, and it will be pretty costly if it's a paid project. So you have to really know your coverage and blocking way in advance. The process is definitely less reactive. Then we wrapped, and it was New Year's Eve. Once the New Year's craze was over, I immediately started editing and trying different cuts. And I was constantly sending new versions to the producer and DP to get their opinions. And to fill in the gaps where we didn't have the full CG renders yet, I used the shots from our animatic as placeholders, and it worked. The editing process didn't really take all that long. I had the final cut on my hands in something like 3 or 4 days. The real challenge was to get the full CG shots through the final Unreal Engine renders. That's where the project almost got stuck. The Unreal Engine guys were always so busy with work that we had to constantly find tiny gaps in their schedule to come up and find the right angles and basically direct the whole thing. It was a tedious process. We knew for a fact that we could not afford one of those mocap suits that would cost us tens of thousands of dollars. So instead we used a few GoPros to capture the motion, and then we stitched it all within move.ai and imported that into an Unreal Engine to place the 3D actors into our own environment. Problems? Of course, because it was all captured on GoPros, it wasn't very accurate and some of the bones and joints looked pretty weird. But our Unreal Engine wizards were somehow able to fix that too. So after about a month and a half of going back and forth and a few hundred renders and re-renders, we had the final assembly that was ready to go to color grading and sound design. The sound design was done all remotely and was definitely on point from the very first draft. The color grading, however, was again a bit of a challenge because the LED wall's dynamic range was so low that we had to hide it behind a very high contrast and a dirty film look. But at the end, I think it kind of worked out, and it definitely added some layer of character to our story. And finally, I rendered the final version and uploaded it to the Google Drive and shared it with the rest of the team, as well as Instagram and YouTube. And the reactions were quite positive, so I'm pretty happy about how it all turned out. The sole purpose of this project was always to flex our creative muscles and to create a piece that will live on our reels for the next few years. And I still hope that it will bring us more paid clients and paid work that is related to virtual production. Going into this, we wanted to make a visually stunning film that would showcase the power of Unreal Engine and explore the possibilities of virtual production. We wanted to show the local industry that even without spending crazy budgets, you can still achieve something that looks good and feels good and most importantly tells the story. And we also wanted to encourage the filmmakers to be a bit more bold with the new technologies. And I consider it to be new, although it's been out for a few years now. So thank you for watching, and I hope I see you in the next video.